Hello again, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of the Bottled Stories podcast. My name is Tim Tibbetts. I'm your host, and I am with my right hand, as always, Rebecca. Today, we're going to travel into the shadow of the Andes Mountains. We're headed to Argentina, and specifically to Mendoza, and we're going to talk about the wines of Mi Terruno. Now, Mi Terruno translates directly to my land, my terroir. And their version of this, when you talk to them about it, terroir is not just the land, it's not just the soil, but it's the climate, it's the weather, it's the people, it's all of it, the culture. Everything about it is what is part of their terroir, their expression of what it is. And so it's really quite cool that, the name Mi Terruno means an encompassing of all of those things. The culture, the food styles, the land itself, the soil, the weather, the climate, the elevation, all of it is all part of that. And that's really, really, really cool. So we just had this conversation a second ago, and it's an interesting question. Why did we choose Mi Terruno? When there's so many incredible producers,
So many producers.
so many.
Producing Malbec, producing
Yeah.
Malbec from the same areas
Yeah.
that they do from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny, I never really thought about it much before, but it's been a long time. I mean, we've distributed Mi Terruno for a very, very long time. And like Gabriel's he's kind of like family. We don't even think about it anymore. We've been doing this with Gabriel for so long. He's actually the one person of all of the producers that we work with. He's the one person who's been to the Bahamas more than anybody. And so I never really considered what it was that started this
We
journey.
know why we continue, why we maintain the
Yeah.
relationship.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Great wines, great people.
there are so many great producers in Argentina, and you could name off 1,000 of them, right? Like you get into the big names, right? Catena Zapata, Luigi Bosco,
But we're not into the
and Susana Balbo, who we actually have the opportunity to sit with her family this year and taste those wines again. And she may be the next of the Argentinians that get in, and it's because, again, of the story, and it is the bottled story that makes it so interesting. For Susana, she was the pioneer. She was the most important female winemaker in Argentinian history because of her focus away from Malbec and getting on to a specific focus in a lot of white wines. And part of why we love these wines is also, strangely enough, because they're made by one of the most extraordinary women winemakers. Maria Regina Baigorria is one of the coolest people you'll ever meet, tough as nails, but also incredibly generous and incredibly giving. And we'll talk about a little bit more about her story once we get through some of the wines. But this story really is about our love of the wine, the quality of the wine. It speaks for itself across all of the different entry points. From uvas, this is the entry. We're talking fruit driven. It's called uvas for a reason. Uvas meaning grape or grapes in Spanish. That's all it is. It is just the grapes. It is a pure representation of the grapes. And we have uvas in a few different versions: Torrontés, the unoaked Chardonnay, the Malbec. And so it gives you a really interesting viewpoint on what that actually is. Expression, completely different grapes. This is Sauvignon Blanc from high altitude, and it really gives you The expression is exactly what it says. It's an expression of where it came from, and it is really, really, really interesting how they define them. The Reserva line, these wines I love. They're just such extraordinary value for the dollar. Malbec, Cab Sauv, Cab Franc, Bonarda, which is what we're actually drinking at the moment. If you've never had Bonarda from Argentina, Mi Terruno is probably the best version of it that you're going to find because they still grow Bonarda the old way. Whereas new people are looking for how many vines they can plant per acre in order to optimize production. Mi Terruno grows 2 vines every 12 feet or 3 meters, 4 meters, whatever it is. And then they grow them tall, get the canopy grow out in order to protect the skins. Bonarda skins are very thin, very prone to sunburn, which makes them super, super bitter. So to get it
in the desert.
and you're in a desert,
Lots
exactly.
of sun. Yeah.
And we'll talk about the climate in a second. But if you're looking for Bonarda, Mi Terruno probably makes one of the best, if not the best, Bonarda in the region because they stick to the old ways. Then you have limited edition wines, one of which, this is Malbec and Cabernet, which I chose simply because I wanted to have the different tiers of Malbec for this presentation. But we also have one of my favorite, 100% Petit Verdot. It's just extraordinary, really extraordinary. 100% Petit Verdot. And those of you who know the great Petit Verdot, you will understand why it's so extraordinary to have 100% Petit Verdot. Those of you who don't know the great Petit Verdot, Petit Verdot is a Bordeaux varietal which originates from France in the Bordeaux region and usually is used between 2 and 5% in a blend because they're rugged. They're very difficult to tame. Almost never would you find a Petit Verdot in France as 100% varietal. It's almost impossible to find because they're so difficult to tame. They're hard to get your head around. They're wild and rambunctious and really, really rugged and rustic, and they don't have any finesse. And so to have a winemaker who is so talented and so gifted that they can create finesse where none exists is really extraordinary. It was one of the reasons why I love the limited edition version of Petit Verdot. And then we get to the iconic series. So the one we don't have shown here is called Icono, and it is like the flagship of the company. And it is a Bordeaux blend style, but instead of Merlot, they're using Malbec. So 50% Malbec, and then the other 50% is made up of Cabernet Franc, Cabernet Sauv, and Petit Verdot in a blend. Really gorgeous wine. Really, really, really gorgeous wine. But for me, the most important wine of the entire lineup of all of these is this one. This is called Maya Caba. And it's actually named, each 2 letters of the name are the kids. Maria, Gabriel, and his brother, Julio, and BA is Bagora. So the kids all have their name in Maya Caba. That's where it came from. But Maya Caba is made from more than century-old vines in Luján de Cuyo. So Luján de Cuyo is about 10 minutes outside of the downtown core of Mendoza City. And sadly, a lot of it is disappearing to urban sprawl. And they're plowing under these vineyards of 100-year-old vines in order to build new gated communities and gyms. And
we noticed it even in the 3 years difference.
Yeah, massive change in 3 years since the last time we were there. And it's sad to see, but we're not going to lose some of the greatest Malbec vineyards in the world because of urban sprawl, because development pays a lot more money than farming. And that's just the reality of being a farmer. And another one of the reasons why we always tell everybody, if you're going to buy a wine, buy it thoughtfully. Buy it from a small family, buy it from a farmer, because that little bit that you contribute is going to make a big difference in whether or not those guys can survive for the long haul. Big corporate companies, they're going to survive either way, and whether that means they won't make wine and move to another venture, that's what they're going to do because they have the money to do so. These small families, they live and breathe the soil. It is what it is. And if you support them, they have a better chance of surviving through these kind of financial crises that we're seeing so many of these amazing vineyards all getting plowed under.
One thing I think is interesting to point out about these grape varieties as the Bordeaux grape varieties. Um, the South America has had these old Bordeaux varieties from before the phylloxera louse in 1800s, because this louse would eat the rootstock of grapevines. When it was happening in Bordeaux, no one, or in Northern Europe, no one really knew what was going on.
Yeah, they thought it was a curse from the gods.
Right, because these grapevines were fine, and then all of a sudden they were like dropping over dead the next day because it was eating the rootstock. So all of these grape varieties that are flourishing in Argentina, for instance, are traditionally Bordeaux grape varieties that the louse couldn't go over mountains, sand, and
sea.
So when the grapevines had been taken to Argentina, they were allowed to flourish because they couldn't be affected by this louse.
Right.
So very old traditional grape varieties work really well there.
And you'll see sometimes in Europe, you'll see a lot of the current vineyards in Europe are on California rootstock, and then they're grafted. And so you have the rootstock of whatever vine, it doesn't matter what kind, and then they've grafted on top of that the specific species clone that they want to use in order to produce the wine. But for ungrafted vines, pre-phylloxera, they came from either Argentina or Chile and went back to France and these areas in order to make sure that they maintained ungrafted rootstock. There's not a lot of them left, but they are there, and they are coming mostly from Argentina and also some from Chile. And that is kind of a cool little bit of history about what made Argentina so important. And we talk about Malbec for a second. Malbec, I mean, if you talk about Malbec and you say the word Malbec to any average wine drinker, they are not going to say Cahors.
No.
They're not going to say Bordeaux.
No.
They're going to say Argentina. And that is one of the most incredible marketing programs that you will ever see undertaken. And honestly, when we talk to Gabriel about this, he will tell you that this is government at the highest levels of government that are pushing this to get it to the level of where it was. Now, you have to make great wine. At the end of the story, you can promote all you want. If your product is crap and nobody wants it, it doesn't matter. It's still going to die.
Anyone can say whatever they want.
Exactly. But if you have great marketing that's backing a great product, then that's why everyone in the world, when you say Malbec, you think Argentina. And that's an amazing thing.
Think great steak, Malbec. Yeah. Perfect combo.
And the interesting thing that we had in the last visit that we had there was Gabriel was mentioning that they're shifting the focus away from Malbec and they're changing the focus to Cabernet Franc. Mm-hmm. And I'm excited about that because the Cabernet Francs there are absolutely extraordinary. And I'm jonesing for the ability to try some of these super high-end Cabernet Francs as they start to push more and more money into production and advertising
the name
of Cab Franc.
Educating about the grape variety.
It's really, really fantastic. Let's talk about, just for a second, a little bit of the story. So all of these kids, by the way, there's 3 of them that run this winery. Maria Eugenia is the winemaker. And then her youngest brother is running like the local Argentinian market for sales and distribution. And then Gabriel's the commercial director who works the rest of the country, works the rest of the world, basically. And they all have Italian passports. And that is because their great grandfather was an Italian immigrant who set up all these vineyards. So the vineyard in Luján de Cuyo, which is where Maya Cava comes from, that vineyard was planted in 1907, so about 120 years ago. And it's so narrow, like the rows are so close together that they need special things in order to plow that vineyard. They can't use a tractor or anything like that, because of there were no tractors at that time. They didn't exist. So it would have originally have been plowed and stuff by horses. So they still have to use old kind of technology in order to do that, which is kind of cool. And again, in a different video, we've talked about what using horses can do for the aeration of the soil, and how it
Not
makes
compacting
it makes it much more healthy, and there's more oxygen in the soil, so the plants have better health. All of that's really led by their use of horses, and that's super cool. This company really started in the 1960s, growing on a large scale. And their winery in San Roque, at the time, if you go visit, it's actually quite interesting. It's a really funky winery because you could see its history as a bulk wine producer, making massive quantities. But they were really selling off grapes to bulk producers, really. That was their big thing. And then they started moving towards quality, less quantity, and really focusing on really raising the level of what these wines were. And then you go into these old concrete vats that they have, where they were storing huge, vast quantities of bulk wines that have now been converted into barrel rooms for barrel aging, because the walls are so thick, that they maintain temperature really well. They have wonderful use of the space in using up all these old tanks in order to store barrels.
And the Venetian tile.
Yeah.
On the walls.
So all of the tiles, and we can put up a picture here so that you can see all the tile work and stuff that is all over the place. This was all done, decades and decades and decades ago, and they say that if they were to try and replicate it now, first of all, it would be impossible because nobody makes these tiles anymore. But if they did try to have these tiles all handmade in order to replicate it, it would cost millions and millions and millions of dollars to redo it. It's really, really interesting. It's kind of like this funky Art Deco kind of like, pre-disco 60s vibe that's going on. It's really bare bones. It's super simple, and I love that about it. And
well, it's because they're putting their money into the wine, not into.
And also, there's it's not frivolous. There's no wasted spending here, and that's why these wines are so affordable. This wine at this level should be well over $100, $150, $200. If this was California, it'd be $350. If this was first growth, or not first growth, but a Grand Cru Classé from Bordeaux, this is $200, $250 at this quality level. So at under $60 for that quality level
in the Bahamas,
where we have some of the most expensive wine in the world because of our import duties, they don't waste money on frivolous things. It is all in the bottle. And that is something we love about wine. When you can find a producer who puts all of their effort, all of their finances, everything they have into the juice and not into the frivolous nonsense, then it is such a great, great thing for consumers. I understand the concept of wine tourism and why so many wineries have spent so much money creating these extraordinary visitor experiences. But I also understand how wasteful it is in some spots. I don't want to visit a Napa Valley winery that has a barrel room or steel tank room or whatever it is. There's aging cellars or storage cellars that look like they're like something out of the Louvre. I don't care. It doesn't make any difference to me. No, and almost no one sees it. And you've spent $70 million on a winery. That means that the first $35 in the price of that bottle of wine that I have to buy is paying for that vanity, and I don't care. I don't want that. This is literally repurposed, reused, recycled winery using great French oak, 20 months of barrel age, and you end up with an extraordinary bottle of wine that is under $60 in the Bahamas. Like, you can't beat this stuff. It's absolutely extraordinary. This is something that is so important to me about these guys and why I love them so much. Now, one second about spending money on things that are useless. Gabriel, I know you're going to watch this. I love you. You are like family to us. Please invest in better boxes. They blow up all the time. I have so many broken bottles because of boxes failing. You have great wine. You have an amazing product. And because you do everything in 12 bottle boxes too, I get it. That's the American market. Yeah, I know you have to do that. Yeah. But you need sturdier boxes. Sturdier boxes will make such a huge difference for us. That is the end of my rant. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. I love you, buddy. I do. No worries. But let's get back to wine. Yeah, I mean, one of the top value for the dollar wines that we have in our portfolio for sure.
And easily accessible. You can drink these by themselves every day.
Every day.
You can pair them with food. The Sauvignon Blanc is definitely like the more kind of New Zealand style Sauv Blanc with that.
But I find not as, it's not as overtly cat-pea.
No, it's more grapefruit.
Yeah, it's less gooseberry cat-pea, more gooseberry.
Passion fruit,
grapefruit. Yeah. I find it more tropical, more citrus than I do the classic New Zealand.
And this Uvas, the unoaked Chardonnay.
I mean that's a game changer. The Uvas Chardonnay. So when people come into the shop and they say I want to do a tasting, but I don't like Chardonnay.
Okay, you can have
the very first wine we put in the tasting every single time is Uvas Chardonnay, and it's because people don't. It's not that they don't like Chardonnay; it's they don't understand it.
Or
they don't like
the oak
wood.
Part of it, yeah.
They don't like the oak. They don't want butter. They don't want vanilla. They don't want spice. They don't want to taste the fruit. And so Uvas Chardonnay completely opens a whole world for them.
Tropical fruit. I mean, pineapple and mango and melon.
Amazing.
I know
it's
that's
amazing.
Not tropical, but yeah.
Absolutely amazing wine.
Yeah.
It's fascinating to me because these guys have been grape growers for more than 70 years now, but and with the case of Mayakaba, that vineyard is like over 100 years old. But they only started producing their own wine in 2004. And they stopped selling any grapes commercially in 2004 and started producing their own wine 100%. And when they decided they were going to do that, I mean, this is a leap, right? You're taking a huge leap of faith. Like Gabriel and his family at the time, the kids were really young. They only had one, I think, at the time, who grew up like they were married in the little church across the road from the vineyard or from the winery. That they have their birthday parties and stuff in the little community center. This is a town of about 85 people. It's tiny. The son was baptized in that church right across the road from the winery. They are huge parts of that community. And he lived inside the winery during that period. He showed us their little tiny one-bedroom apartment that they built inside the winery for them to live, so they never had to leave the winery in those early years of getting things moving. And that is such a huge thing about, running a small business, a family-owned business. You sacrifice so much in order to make sure that this is going to fly.
And it's out of love. It's a labor of love. I mean, you're not a farmer. You're not a small business owner. You're not doing something that is so subjective as well, right? You don't do that because you don't love it. I mean, you have to love it to do it.
There has to be
the time that you put
passion.
I mean, that's just that's a lifestyle choice.
Yeah, it's when people talk to us about wine, they always remark about the amount of passion that we have for it, and when we talk about it. And yes, absolutely. I mean, this is how we make our living, right? And in both the restaurant aspect and the wine version, like the actual wine sales version of it. But we've talked about this in our very first episode, the introduction episode, of why we are so passionate about it. It's because we're reflecting somebody's entire life in a bottle right here, and understanding the deep connection that we have with these people. That we get proud, we're proud of them when they put out another amazing vintage, when we taste another wine that is so amazing. We're excited for them. We want to share their story, and we want to get these wines out to people, because I'm like, damn, man, you did it again. Like, this is killer, absolutely killer. And it's so exciting to be able to do that with people.
And we feel responsible for relaying their stories.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, if they can only do so much, and then it becomes our responsibility to make sure that everybody else gets an opportunity to learn about it. One of the cool things I love about this winery, and I'll throw a little shout out to Cecilia here. Cecilia is the head sommelier for Mi Terruno for their guest experiences inside the tasting room. Recently got to do her little mini world tour of an experience that we actually, I think, were the first people to ever get an opportunity to try in the early days. This was like 3 years ago, 4 years ago, when we went there for the first time, where they are actually doing entire flights that are paired with local made chocolate. And it's chocolate in different styles, but also blended with different levels of spice, chili spice, in order to pair it with different things. So Chardonnay, Torrontés, we did with Bonarda, we did with Petit Verdot, and with Mayakaba, and doing that in a flight with all of these different chocolates and the different levels of spice is such a wild experience. We did it here in Freeport in the shop. We did 2 different tastings because it was so popular. We had to do 2 of them. Then we did another version in Nassau, Bahamar.
And they do it at the winery.
And they do it at the winery all the time. And they've done it all over South Florida and in different places. And it's such a cool experience. And that's something to me that I would rather have in a guest experience visiting a winery, is seeing the traditional roots of the winery, the history of the winery, and then something cool like that.
Well, they curated it for their wines.
Versus the $70 million Louvre tank room that, yeah, it looks really impressive. It's really beautiful. That's really cool. But now I got to pay $50 more a bottle for the wine.
And it's,
I don't want that.
And it's clinical.
It is. It's clinical.
Yeah.
So that's something that I love about these guys. Again, it feels like you're visiting somebody's home.
Well, you are.
Technically.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, for a second, the landscape. So if you've ever been to Argentina, especially in the north, in the Mendoza area, you really understand how close you are to the Andes Mountains. So we are very, very close to Aconcagua, which is the largest mountain peak in the Western Hemisphere. And that whole ridge of mountains that separates Argentina from Chile plays an enormous factor. So you become immersed inside the rain shadow of the Andes. So it is a desert. They get no rain, almost zero rain.
Except for when we were there.
Which is funny enough.
Twice,
every time we go to a desert,
it
rains in Vegas when we're there. So every time we go to a desert, apparently it rains. So if you live in a desert and you need rain, you call, let us know, pay for our plane tickets, we'll come visit you. But what they do have is a huge series of amazing canals. And I think I have some pictures, and we'll throw up a picture here or two so you can see them. These canals are huge. They're about 12 feet wide. They're 6 feet deep, and they run along the sides of all the roads.
Like ditches.
Like huge ditches.
Yeah.
But if you were to fall off the side of the road, like in your car is gone forever.
Yeah, it's
history.
Swallowed.
So this is how they channel water around. And so you have the entire Andes mountain chain around you, and the snow on the caps of the mountains, as it melts, you have this runoff water that is then collected into huge aquifer ponds that then is released on certain days that go to certain areas. And it's all I mean, the engineering to do this in the middle of the 1800s would have been absolutely astronomical because it's not close. I mean, it's close enough that you see them and they're ominous and they look incredible.
You can't walk
But
it in
it's
a
not
day.
like you're going to
Yeah.
walk that in a day. And these guys built these canal systems to get water from the top of the mountains into the downtown core and all of the surrounding agricultural land in the middle of the 1800s. Incredible feat of engineering, really incredible.
Yeah.
But those irrigation canals are what basically turned Mendoza into an oasis in the middle of a desert.
I mean, the flowering trees, the greenery, the foliage. And now, I mean, when we were there, they were harvesting garlic. I mean, it's a big agricultural hub too because of that, for not just grapes.
But when you drive 20 minutes outside the city, tumbleweed.
Yeah.
Tumbleweed. It looks like you're driving through Arizona. Like it is absolute dust bowl, tumbleweed, desert area. And so it's really fascinating how this feat of engineering has turned this whole area into a place that's so fertile, so incredibly important to the economy of Argentina. Not just for wine, but also for all of its agricultural stuff as well. It's a fascinating place. If you ever go, really is spectacular. If you get a chance, go. It's inexpensive,
Mendoza
amazing
City,
food.
it's walkable, the food, the wine, the shopping, the leather. I didn't ever even
Never
think
thought about it, but you want a nice new belt or
after your steak.
I don't know what you're into these days. Maybe some fancy leather chaps, but if you want just something cool, like gloves, like any sort of cool leather stuff, hats, you're going to find the best version there, and it's going to be the least expensive. It's really
very,
amazing.
very friendly people.
Really amazing.
Very friendly people.
So the region where they are, this Luján de Cuyo region, San Roque, is all kind of very similar. It's literally a couple of minutes apart between the designations. We're talking about, this is alluvial soil. So you have millennia of stuff coming off those mountains. It's clay, it's stone, it's rock, sand. All of it comes washing down the mountains whenever they do happen to have a torrential rainfall. When we were in the Uco Valley, in their vineyards in Tubongaro, which is where all of these reserve wines come from, there was a dry riverbed beside the vineyard that's about 40 or 50 feet wide and about 15 feet deep. And it's only dry at certain times of the year. And the rest, it's filled to the brim. And when that floods, without that channel, all of these vineyards would disappear.
Yeah.
They would all be flooded out, and they would never come back. It would be absolutely travesty to have that happen. So it's really incredible how they have all of these evacuation points for water. It's really, really cool.
Well, because the soil is so dry that
it doesn't get soaked
once the water comes, it's not able to absorb it. So it just goes on top, and you'd A, lose the water, or B, flood your vineyards.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's pretty serious. The other thing that's important for this region, obviously, is altitude. Altitude, we got to see just how important altitude is, and sometimes how detrimental altitude is when we were just there a few months ago. We were at their vineyards.
It was spring.
Their spring, leading into summer.
Yeah.
So end of October, early November. And their vineyards were beautiful, lush, amazing. We drove 5 minutes away up the mountain. So we probably climbed another 800 to 1,000 meters in altitude.
My ears started to pop.
And there was a vineyard that was there, and it was gone, completely wiped out. It was so black from the frost that the frost was so intense it completely killed hectares and hectares and hectares of vineyards. And when we asked how bad is this, Gabriel said, well, this year is a loss. Next year will be a loss. Yeah. And possibly the third year will be a complete loss again until those vines can recover. And if they get another frost of that kind in that 3
that
years,
far into the growth of the vines,
then they will
right.
they will never return. So planting at that altitude is a gamble. But the reason why people do it is you have this incredible difference in daytime to nighttime temperatures. You're talking about anywhere from 2,400 to 3,500 feet in altitude. This is way up there. At that level, when the higher you go up, the higher the UV intensity is of the sun and the thermal amplitude. So you get a really, really good ripening, even at cold temperature. But you have these really warm, hot days during the summertime. I mean, when we were there, even in November, you're talking 90 degrees Fahrenheit, 95 degrees Fahrenheit. In the summertime, regularly over, 100,
Yeah.
100 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's like 35, 36, 37 Celsius in the day and going down into single digit Celsius at night. That diurnal shift gives these wines extraordinary acidity and really maintains the floral compounds, especially in the whites. You get these incredible floral notes, a lot of these really beautiful tropical and citrus notes that you get, and it's all because of the acidity that is
And the lower
maintained
alcohol too.
because of that. Exactly. I mean, really
What's this,
amazing what you can do.
12.5, both of them.
Really what you can do with that altitude is really, really extraordinary. So talking about these different styles, we've kind of gone through all of these, but it's something we didn't talk about is how they're pushing boundaries outside of just the regular, and we need to talk about their sparkling wine. So Mi Terruno sparkling is done in the Prosecco style, but they're using champagne grapes. So it is using the Martinati method, which is the same way that they make Prosecco. But we're talking Pinot Noir, Chardonnay, and just a little of our favorite Chenin Blanc. And this is the wine that we serve by the glass for sparkling at our restaurant and have for a long time. It is spectacular. This is one of the great quality value sparkling wines of the world. I am convinced of that. I think it's
an excellent wine.
It's really amazing.
Yeah.
And also rosé. 100% Malbec rosé in the Uvis line. Super popular. Great fruit driven, really fruit forward wine. That's a wine that you can really get behind on a summer day. No, I love that stuff.
Screw cap makes it easy.
Yeah, especially here, right? If you want to go to the beach, go to the boat, you just have your cooler. You throw the screw cap back on, you don't have to worry about the wine popping open and losing all your wine inside your cooler.
Or forgetting your corkscrew.
You'd be surprised how many people come into the wine shop and say, I'm just here visiting. Can I get a wine with a screw top? Because they don't have a corkscrew and they don't want to take one with them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I've got caught at security at the airport many a times.
We've lost a lot of corkscrews, trauma. These guys are also, they're not certified organic because they don't need to be, because it is a desert. So really nothing can grow. They don't have any humidity issues, so you don't have to worry about spraying for fungus. Downy mildew or powdery mildew can't exist because they don't have enough moisture in the air. This year they were just certified as certified sustainable practices, which is great. I mean, again, they've been working this way for a long period of time, and now they just have the certifications along to go with it. But for me, the one thing I always come back to when it comes to this, it's just the people. It's just the stories about the people. We haven't even talked about, Maria and her commitment to empowering young people.
Mm-hmm.
She has taken in over the course of many, many years a number of orphaned girls who come across the border from Bolivia or from Ecuador and from some of these other impoverished countries where they're coming looking for an opportunity, a better life. Some of them as young as like 6 years old, 5 years old. And she takes them in and
Teaches them a
she
skill.
teaches them a skill.
Yep.
She makes sure that they get to school on time every day. She lets them work in the winery. By the time they're 17 years old and it's time for them to go out on their own, they've been working in the winery for many years and they have a skill that in Mendoza is a valuable skill. You've been working in a winery for 10 years at 17. Well, you're going to outdo a lot of people who are just coming in, right? So you will find a job in the 400 plus wineries that there are in Mendoza and be able to support yourself and actually have a life of your own. And we have to commend her for that, and getting to talk to her, sitting around one night outside in the backyard and just drinking wines and talking about life this is what it's all about,
And after a couple glasses of wine, what's a language barrier?
I mean, her English is pretty good. It's not bad. It's not as good as Gabriel, but it's pretty good. She does have
It's much better than our Spanish.
it's much better than our Spanish, exactly. So definitely some of our favorite people, and I'm looking forward to being able to go back again. We've been a couple of times now to Mendoza to see them, and I'm looking forward to going back because it's just so much fun. The food is just incredible. The wines are incredible. The people are incredible. It's a really, really, really cool place.
And again, wine does not come from ugly places.
Absolutely not.
Yep.
And so I guess that's it for this story today. We thank you guys again for joining us, and please come back, join us again for the next time when we unbottle another story.
Ooh,
Cheers.
Cheers.